Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today's episode is a special bonus episode chatting all about a very unique and exciting upcoming horror experience. And I'm joined by two very special guests. Sorry, didn't add that S on the end there. Jim Wheale and Sophie Short, the creative minds behind Stormjar Studio's immersive horror story, The Static Sea. Welcome to the show, Jim and Sophie. Hello.
Hello.
Oh,
Thanks.
Hi there. You're most welcome. How are you both doing today? Merely 3 days before the big day?
2 days.
We go
Makes sound
out.
like getting married.
Well, we did that before Christmas, just to because why not?
Shut that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. I had
Thank
no
you.
idea. There we go. Amazing.
But
And this is the honeymoon, right?
yes,
Pretty much, yeah.
pretty much, yeah.
Sharing with 20 other volunteers.
Yeah, 20 volunteers, videographer.
That's what you want to do for your honeymoon.
That's it depends. Maybe I won't go into. You carry on. You pick this up because this is going to go west otherwise.
Yes,
It always does.
Yeah, we go to Flat Holm Island, weather gods permitting, on Friday at 6 in the morning.
Mhm.
That's the first boat. The second boat is 12 hours later because the tides in the Avon are complicated.
Okay.
You can only land on the island twice a day.
Mm.
So that's how we're getting all the performers and crew there. And then on the Saturday, the guests arrive at about 7:20, and the experience immediately starts.
Mm.
And then we'll all
Immediately.
go home on the Sunday, again, tides permitting. There is a relatively large chance that we'll be stranded there until Monday, looking at the weather currently.
Oh my
But it
God,
can
yeah.
change. It can change at any moment. It's all to play for.
Yeah, it has changed a lot already
I've-
today. So
Yeah.
Well, like getting stranded on the island's got to be like, that's part of it, right? That must be just an extra bit of bonus content for the immersive experience.
Well,
yes.
luckily, the smallest pub in Wales is on this island.
Yeah.
So it just means we're just going to have
Is
a lot
it?
of food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that does help. And I'm sure someone will bring you up tea or something.
So it will just be in the pub for the
We're
the
just-
For the
rest-
duration.
Yeah, pretty much.
We're just
Ride it
like-
out.
The weather's looking all right. It's just a very
Yeah.
logistically complex
Yeah.
place to do anything on.
Uh-huh.
And Sophie previously worked on a kind of relatively speaking similar, although grossly better funded project on an island in an estuary, which I'll get, she should be the one to tell you about. But she came back from that experience. She was like, oh, never working on an island again. And I was like, good news. I've got an island for this.
I've got an idea, and it has to take place on an island. I will just quickly explain a little bit about this project to our listeners, just in case they're not aware. The Static Sea is an immersive horror story told online and through theatre, a twisted ghost story that combines forgotten World War I history, the birth of radio, and the ghost of Flat Holm Island. The horror mystery experience focuses on a fictional radio engineer from the 1920s who served as a trench radio operator during World War I, and the live show will take place on the island in the Bristol Channel this Saturday.
That is correct.
That's
And you can join in for free. I have to stress that bit because otherwise it sounds like we're going to charge people admission. But in the Discord, so we've been putting out story content every week for 17 weeks straight now.
Wow.
All of those transmissions, as we've called them, you can get them online and catch up. They're a mix of film and puzzles and all sorts of cool stuff. And then there'll be a live digital show on the Saturday where you can help the 6 winners, because we ran it as a lottery to decide the winners. And those 6 people arrive on the Saturday night. And yeah, you can help them by solving various things in the Discord on the Saturday night.
Yeah, so
No way, that's cool.
If there's obviously 6 people on the island who are taking part in the live element, and then there is still an entirely digital side of this where you influence the fate of the participants on the island. So
Yeah,
there's kind of like a dual a
And
dual type hybrid event that's going on.
one of the things I'm trying to rig at the moment is we've got this old 1920s field telephone. It's this beautiful, beautiful object, and that should pick up and talk straight to Discord.
Oh my God. I can't even
Yeah,
think
so,
about the logistics of that. That sounds
horrible is what the logistics are. It's it's really interesting to try and make a piece of work where it is so accessible, you know, like we
Yeah.
can't take loads and loads of people
No.
to the island because logistically it's a nightmare. You'd have to charge an insane amount of money, and those kind of experiences do exist, and I kind of hate that. I hate that there are experiences that are like £3,000 per person to eat at this restaurant. I just, yeah, it's very elitist, and I don't want to make work that people can't enjoy. So that's why we did it as a lottery. Why we've done this one to raise money for charity, the charity that runs the island. But all the stuff in the
Oh, I
Discord
see.
is free for that very purpose. Not least as well because it gives us a chance to be quite experimental and figure out actually how do you make interactive live digital hybrid experience that doesn't just sound like an academic paper.
You've both got experience with stuff like this anyway, haven't you? And was this
Yeah.
like, yeah. So how did it come to? I mean, I guess we should go back to the very beginning, which is how did you guys form Stormjar Studio?
So I've worked in immersive my whole life. And one of the early days in my immersive days when it wasn't really called immersive back then. It was
Pervasive games
or site
Yeah.
theatre is often what it was called back then, and now it's just immersive. But back in those days, me and James worked on a cross-city zombie chase game, the largest chase game I think in the world.
Wait.
2.8 hours later.
Yeah.
At the moment, I was like, wait, which is it hours? 2.8 hours later, both James and I were both writers and directors on the game.
So we met.
Which is how we met.
Oh, it's how you met as well. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, you often use the phrase "we met in a zombie apocalypse" because it did feel like that at the time.
We both still get bureaucratic nightmares of trying to herd zombies into minibuses or getting them to like tie their shoelaces or like queue for the makeup booth. Because again, it's all like volunteers, zombies.
Come on, zombies, put the effort in.
Yeah. I think you can tell a lot about a person, right, by the kind of zombie dreams they have. This is a bit of an aside, but my friend Duncan's quite an anxious person, and he has this like repeating dream that there are zombies encroaching upon a caravan that he's in, and he's got a shotgun, but his ass is stuck in the sink.
His ass?
Yeah, he's like he can't get out of the sink, and that's
I'm in the bloody sink again. How has that happened? Was he giving himself a sink wash? Because
I don't know,
people
but
like
it's
to treat
such a
themselves to
great
that.
dream. It's a wonderful
It's a great dream.
dream.
I think, depending on what zombie dream you have, are they shuffling zombies or are they like sprinting zombies? I think that probably tells you a lot about a person. Mine's always sprinting zombies, it seems.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Mine are insubordinate zombies.
Yeah.
Mine are getting lost, wandering off, not where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Having a KFC.
Oh God. Yeah,
Great.
the idea being like, guys, you can't be in here. You're supposed to be chasing on this street, please, or in this derelict alleyway, please.
Yeah, it was so fun. And we, you know, that game toured to 12 cities across the UK, and we toured that for 4 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A company called Slingshot. And it was really great. And we've kind of just, you know, followed different paths since then. So Sophie's been more in the immersive space. I went into kind of a really strange mix of storytelling with food and doing like dining experiences. And then I worked in innovation. So like working with companies to kind of innovate, that kind of thing. And we hit this point where it was like, why aren't we making stuff together? We live together. We talk about making stuff all the time. We're both terrible workaholics. You even worse than I am. I was like, if I'm not running a company with Sophie, I'm never going to see her.
Oh. And I miss the spooky stuff. So, you know, we did zombies for a long time, but I love horror, and a lot of the immersive stuff I've been working on the past few years hasn't been horror. My day job is working as a creative producer at Wake the Tiger, and
Oh, yeah, of course.
it's like psychedelic loveliness. But I was like, oh, I miss the spook. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an opportunity as well. I think this is something probably that we'll get into, but like also to make the kind of horror that we aspire to make, because horror is such a broad thing, and the kind of resurgence and interest in it, and also the revisionism, right? Like, you know, when you hear someone like Ad talking about how important Blackula is and like why it's important and what cultural significance it has, it's just such an important medium for a time like what we're living through now, which is just riddled with anxiety and existential dread.
yes,
It's just such a good medium to process those emotions.
And it always has been, hasn't it, horror? It's always
yeah.
been something that runs along parallel with like any sort of real life political standpoints and stuff. It kind of all comes together eventually.
Well, yeah, a big inspiration for the Static Sea was this book called I think it's called The Wasteland, after the T.S. Eliot poem. But it's about the emergence of film in response to the horrors of World War One, and then the appropriation and subjugation of film as a propaganda tool. So a lot of the early horror filmmakers were survivors, you know, soldiers who were on the front line, and that poured into things like Frankenstein. So this is where it gets a bit weird, because one of the leading directors is called James Whale. He directed Frankenstein. I'm James Wheale.
Oh,
And James
I
Whale
see.
was from the Black Country, which is where both of my parents are from. And
Yeah.
he was a prisoner of war, which is what my granddad was. And so there's like kind of strange connections there.
Okay.
But he was a really cool man. He was like one of the first openly gay people in Hollywood. This is in like the 20s. So it was illegal to be a homosexual back then. And he directed loads of amazing horror films. There were loads of really cool ones that came out of Germany. Things like, you know, the Cabinet of Dr. Calgary, I think that's how you pronounce it. And then films that were made by Jewish directors that explored things like the Golem as a monster, which was used as a kind of analogy for the experiences of World War One. And then these monsters were appropriated by the Nazi Party and recut and re-edited to demonize the Jewish people. So this is kind of really interesting book, and it just really drove kind of a lot of the ideas behind the Static Sea in terms of like, if we're going to do something about monsters and our first piece of work, it's quite nice to start with this really important moment in horror's history, kind of the birth of cinema.
Yeah, definitely. And where did the links to Flat Holm Island come then? Was that just like something when you were looking into a particular story to link towards it? Did you go looking for it? Did you like stumble upon it essentially?
Apart from you saying you've got us an island, Flat Holm was.
Sound like John Hammond from Jurassic Park there. I have an island.
I have an
Oh my God, that is everything I want to grow into.
Yeah.
I just want to be
With the
like
cane, with the mosquito and the amber.
Yeah.
It won't be real dinosaurs though. It'll be a bunch of volunteers dressed up as dinosaurs. Should be
Yeah.
better, I think.
That's so true.
More terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been pretty fascinated with Flat Holm Island. I've looked out at it growing up in Portishead, and just didn't know you could go there. But there's loads of myths and legends with pirates and ghosts and things like that. So that was the main thing I knew about it. And then we discovered later on in life.
Many years
later.
Many moons.
I phrased it like that. You could go, and we were like, oh my goodness, yeah, we've got to go. And then discovered when we went the rich history of Flat Holm, and how it's weird, and no one knows it either.
Yeah.
Everyone knows, they're like, oh yeah, that little hump that you can see in the channel, but no one knows about its history, that radio, it was the birth of radio there. Like, that's crazy. That's huge.
It's a strange little place.
Amazing.
That is like a 10-minute walk from side to side, and it's just chock-a-block full of strangeness
Oh yeah.
and dark history. And
Cholera Hospital in particular, peak strange.
yeah,
Peak strange.
lots of shipwrecks, lots of dead people.
Graves, sailors' graves.
Part of the cliff fell away, and they found like bodies that had been jammed down into a crevice. That was quite. It's awesome.
Stories about
yeah.
lighthouse keeper's wife who died in mysterious circumstances. There's a lighthouse on there. Main use, I suppose, now of Flat Holm currently is like there is a working lighthouse. But yeah, it's just there are so many fascinating stories that when we went, it would just completely overwhelmed us with being like, wow, there is so much here. So that's why we kind of got inspired to incorporate real historical stuff, some of the folklore as well, part of the island, and then we've added our own little creative spin to all of it too.
And a big part of what we're trying to do with Stormjar is build off what a lot of how the zombie games would run, is that we'd go up to a city and basically go door to door like a knife salesman and be like, hello, can we rent your horrible nightmarish warehouse to run a zombie game in, please?
Yeah, we've noticed you've got a
Yeah,
horrible space downstairs. That
What
we
a
would love to
lovely
use.
abattoir you have.
sure.
And and you just get there's just all of this insane, like, amazing heritage stuff in the UK, like stone circles and castles and abbeys, and we're so lucky to have all of these spaces, but most of the time you go into them is like in a kind of touristy museum way. You don't belong to that space, you don't step into it like it's a living, breathing world. And I think that's where like the immersive stuff can really play a big role. So that's what we want to do, is kind of work with heritage spaces and open them up for this kind of storytelling. And Flat Holm just embodies that as an idea so ridiculously. And also it's the perfect size, because you can explore it and go, people can't really get lost. They can fall in the sea, but I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Don't fall in the sea. And it's got a tiny pub, did you say, as well?
Wales' smallest pub. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
very
the most
nice.
southernly pub. It's got 2 accolades actually.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Don't miss that second accolade.
An accolade.
It's pretty fun, and like it's actually like an ecologically important site. There's loads of rare species of plants and fungus and birds.
Oh.
There's a gull colony on it, which is less great. They've been quite fun to find out about. They basically feast on all the chicken bones in Avonmouth Tip and then just poop them up on the island. So the island is just covered in chicken bones, which is
they're living the dream.
they track them, right? And last time I was on the island, I was like, oh, where are the gulls? And like, oh, they're not here at the moment. They're in Milan. And I was like, oh, they're in Milan.
Fashion show.
Yeah, they've been to Milan. They've been to Rome.
Seen the sights.
Yeah. They've been to Valencia, and I was like, God, these birds are doing well. It's like, yeah, they're just going from like tip to tip
to tip.
Like, oh, okay, well,
lovely.
Then that's the stats, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Have you been to Milan Tip though? Wow.
Have you been to Milan Tip? It's way better than Valencia Tip. I mean, one thing I was going to ask about sort of immersive experiences is how would you describe it potentially to like our regular listeners who may only really watch horror movies or may like play horror video games, but maybe like unsure about something like an immersive horror experience? How would you recommend it? How would you compare it to those other media?
Ooh, I think we'll have different definitions, which is kind of interesting. But I think you should go first.
I think I should go first.
You're the professional.
Ooh.
So with usually like kind of games and films, you take quite a passive role in those environments, and you're usually watching or kind of experiencing somebody else's journey going through a story. Even if you're playing a video game, you're still playing as a character and fulfilling their narrative and their story that they're going to go through. I think with this, it's just that you're going to have your own story throughout this the horror experience. You are the main character in the horror film that usually you watch or play in a game, but this time it is you that's going to be the person that goes through the experience. And maybe you'll survive, maybe you won't at the other end of it. So I think that is really the way to, in a very small nutshell, summarize that.
The tiniest of nutshells.
Well, you don't want a long monologue, James.
By its very nature, a nutshell is tiny.
Nutshells are tiny, and that's what I'm going to say on that. Otherwise, I'm going to blabber on, and no one likes a blabberer.
Well.
I'm going to launch into a really long
Here we
diatribe.
go. Right.
I don't know how
We're
much
getting
I agree with
philosophical
that.
now. Here we go.
Yeah, I might. I might hit with a bit of philosophy. For me personally, it's a space where you step over a threshold into a story world, and I think some video games and some books and some films do this really, really well.
Yes.
And I would class them as immersive. Like, I think immersive as a medium, it's really more of like how you experience that story. And I think you can make lots of different things immersive. And I think there's a lot of things that people portray as being immersive theatre that aren't really that immersive, to be honest, because it's just like, instead of being sat in a seat, you're having to walk around. Wicked. I think the immersion is you step over a threshold, you're in that story world, and whether or not you have agency, I don't know, but you exist in that space. So if I was to give some examples of like films, games, and books that do this well, I would say a film like The Blair Witch Project, which originally presented itself as being real, and you are kind of stepping over that threshold and witnessing this real tape, or something like Dashcam, where you're kind of watching this thing as if it's unfolding in real life. And books like House of Leaves, where it kind of breaks reality for you.
Yeah, of course.
So I find these kind of things to be like immersive, and then when we apply it to a theatrical space, or like what we're doing on the island, it's stepping across that threshold, getting off the boat and stepping back into 100 years ago. And again, this isn't me saying this is like what this is what the definition should be. It's just what I aspire to make. It's like,
no one's got a definition of
it.
Everyone will debate a different definition of immersive.
Wibbly wobbly word, but like, I just want the island to feel like it's a living, breathing world, place that exists before and after you're there. And as the players are like going around the island trying to solve things, the characters have their own agency and they have their own jobs to be done. Like, they're not just sat there waiting for the players to show up. They will be going off. That's what these kind of puppets are about.
Yeah. I was going to ask actually about the Blair Witch Project before you mentioned it, just because it kind of reminded me in a way where the Blair Witch Project, obviously in 1999, had a lot of stuff online that kind of added to that mythology and kind of like built around that. And it kind of reminded me of that in a way, with everything that you're doing on Discord and obviously everything that's been on there before. In terms of the content, what is the writing process like? Is it just a full collaborative experience between the two of you?
Before you go into that, I just want to say big ups to the guys who did that, because they were one of the first people to ever do that type of thing, where they had that online content combining with the actual film.
I legit thought it was real in 1999.
Yeah, it was properly pioneering stuff at the time. And yeah, so
that's my
amazing
favorite horror film.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite all-time films, and it still scares me. It scares me absolutely senseless. I think it's, if you can uphold the kind of social contract of what it's positioning itself as being genuine footage, without letting all the rubbish stuff that's come ever since dilute that. If you can step into it with that mindset, it's so frightening.
Well, it's now a genre, which before it wasn't. So anyway, do you want to go into writing process?
Writing this has been a mix of serendipity, a little bit of like spinning a roulette wheel, I would suppose, because we crowdfunded the project, and as part of the perks, people could like name some ghosts, and stringing that together with some of the history on the island has been so great for coming up with very strange set pieces. Like, there was a Viking boat that was shipwreck there, and Viking graves were found. I think their headstones are now in a museum in Wales. And one of the ghosts were named the Flying Dutchman. And I was like, how am I going to get a pirate ghost ship into this? And so we kind of came up with this sort of Viking shipwreck piratey thing. And that's been really fun. So there's that. Some of it will be about devising in the space on the island. And so I'm really glad we went out and did a couple of recce's. But there will be some creative improvisation on the weekend. And the other part of it is a bit like if you were being a DM for Dungeons and Dragons or something like that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I again, this is like coming into it from like how I see making this as a piece of art rather than being like, this is how, Punch Drunk do it. I like conversation as a mechanic. I don't really want my performers to like monologue or tell people loads of backstory. And it's funny because there's actually loads of backstory because we've been sending out story stuff for like 20 weeks. So it could be like quite lore heavy, but I'd rather people just showed up on the boat and they didn't necessarily need to know anything. Yeah, that's the nice thing about horror. For it to be scary, you don't want too much to be explained.
Yeah, most definitely. The fear of the unknown, or kind of like finding your way through a story is a lot more interesting, isn't it, than just exposition dump after exposition dump. So yes,
And
that's
there's
great.
a lot you can do. One of the nice things about immersive, which I think books and games to an extent are better at this because they can use haptics, but it's still never going to be the same as having the human being in the room. So we can really tap into like sensory storytelling. You can have smells and smoke and fire and heat and things like that. There's something I'll never forget, for example, seeing like Arcadia, the big fire spewing spider, at Glastonbury. When the fire goes, the heat hits you, even though you're like thousands of people back. It really makes you present, and I think that's something that we can do as well as like with the wind and the rain and the weird sounds that come from the island, and like the whole island is poisonous because it's just a big block of lead, so you can't eat or drink anything there either. Can't eat anything grown
From the island.
from the island.
Yeah.
From the island, yeah. What about my monster munch? Can I have this? No, no.
Such appropriate snack. But yeah, it's like this really strange kind of psychic space, and there's also something really powerful psychologically about being on an island and seeing a boat leave.
Yes,
Because
yeah,
that boat
your boat.
can't come back until tomorrow, only if there was like a real emergency with a helicopter come. So you can't leave. And that's so weird.
It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. It's not like a fake setup. It's
Is
real.
there a tiny, tiny percentage of you that's scared that you're actually in a horror movie right now, unfolding, and that this is going to be the? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cast any doubt upon the event.
No,
Because
that's what people are thinking though. Like you're not the only one to think that. Other people are going, what if this plays out
yeah,
as a genuine horror story?
Yeah, I mean, I come back
is
to
it good?
this is it. This is what I was going to say. It comes back to the bureaucratic zombie issue, which is like if that is the case, I just hope it's a good one. Because if it after all this,
that's true.
the movie version of it was just like, oh, it's a slasher on the island. It's Strangleman.
That's so predictable.
Yeah, it'd be lame.
Not Strangleman again.
Oh, Strangleman.
Strangleman.
Volume 72.
Yeah. If it was something absolutely nuts like Titan, I would be all right with it. That's a way to go.
Yeah.
If it's gonna be, it's got to be absolute nutso.
Yeah.
Nutso having sex with the lighthouse. I don't know where you were going with that.
I see the cop with the Titan and the. So yeah, if it turns out that we've all of our volunteers are really into lighthouses, and then that was their main motivation for signing up.
Or seagulls.
Little legal disclaimer here is we're not actually saying our volunteers are into lighthouses or seagulls.
No, we're obviously not, but
they are far stranger than that so far.
Because because all I was thinking is it's a great concept for an immersive horror story, but it's also a great concept for a like sort of meta horror thing as well. So I think that's why it's obviously gathered a lot of interest. You guys have been on the radio, been in magazines, lots of people interested, lots of people supported the project so far. Like, how many people are actually involved with the? I know there's a lot of the people physically on the island, but I guess everybody else in the community as well that you've built on Discord.
Just like ridiculous. There's like 200 people in the Discord, which has just been so wonderful to see. But there's just people coming out and helping us from all walks of life. There's some I can't even talk about because it's still up in the air. That as a pun will make more sense after the weekend.
If we pull this off, then that pun will make sense.
But
God.
like there's
The
just
whole island is gonna lift up out of the.
You got it.
you got it.
Yeah.
I've been absolutely gobsmacked by the amount of talented, brilliant, ingenuitive people who have stepped out and helped us. None more so as well than, like the warden on the island, Simon, who
big up Simon,
is a dark horse in his own right, because he used to be like an engineer for the Red Sparrows. Arrows, that's it. Red Sparrow is something different. That's that movie. And he's he's just been very, very cool, very accommodating. Cardiff Council
and Cardiff Harbour Authority have really gone above and beyond to try and get this event to happen. So many people have.
Yeah.
We had kind of people who bought lottery tickets or different levels of perks to make this event even happen. We had 250 people, and they were from all over the globe who wanted to see this happen, which has just blown our minds. It's beyond Wales. We've had people from the States, from India, from all over Europe. We've got one of our volunteers is coming all the way from Vienna to come and be part of this experience.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Incredible. So it's just,
so cool.
That's what I mean in terms of we've had people that we put this out into the world. I remember the day we did it, we put the crowdfunder out. I felt so sick because I was like, well,
no one's going to care.
Maybe nobody wants this. And you just don't know. You're putting out something so weird and wild. You're like, you don't really know how those things are going to go. It's a cost of living crisis as well. So it's something.
The fact that people have supported it, and then we hit the target, and that's raised £1,000 for conservation projects on the island, which is a really nice thing for this to have, like that kind of legacy impact.
Yeah.
But even like companies all around Bristol, like I got to do a massive shout out to Air Giants, who are an inflatable robotics company from Bristol. They make giant inflatable robots. One day I will make a monster with their technology if I can afford it. But they're like my DIY dads. So I get hold of something like a 1920 field telephone. It's like, well, I don't know how this works at all. Give them a call, and they're like, bring it down. Bring it down.
Can you connect this phone to Discord, please?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, sure.
The conversations you have, and what is it you say? A marker of success is by how weird and wild your problems are.
Well, that I would also I mean
that's
me. No. That is something I say. Like I measure how good my life is going by how stupid my problems are. But I will caveat that I do have ADHD.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Okay.
I wouldn't say that's for everyone.
No, it's not at all. No. But I know James. That's like James what he lives by. He's like, today's weird problem.
It's good though, because I'm sure there's moments where you go, am I the only person in the world that's thinking about this right now? Definitely.
Yeah. And then you just when things get stressful, because putting these things on is logistically complex, it comes with its stresses. Like you ground yourself and go, okay, we're just doing this the thing we're doing is so bizarre, and take a moment to be like, how wicked is it that we even get to do this in the first place?
But this is also weather dependent, because if there's too strong an easterly wind, then the boats can't land. If there's really rough seas, the boats can't land. So it's the whole thing is a gamble. Obviously we can reschedule, but we really wouldn't want to, because Easter weekend is a great weekend. It's holiday. So if the boats can't come on the Sunday for whatever reason, then we've got a day over. The gulls aren't breeding, when they breed, they dive bomb people,
That's in the summer.
and that's like
Yeah.
Oh,
half the
Jesus.
year.
Yeah.
The boats only run up until like the end of October, so it's actually quite tight windows.
Mm.
But if, I mean, anyone listening, I would really recommend just going and doing a day trip there, because you can, and it
Yeah.
goes from Cardiff. And
Yeah, I mean, it's made me kind of want to go and check it out now. Because again, I've been to Portishead, I've seen like out onto where it is, and always kind of, I guess, always kind of wondered. But yeah, I didn't know you could go there. Amazing.
It's a really strange place. There's gun pits from the Victorian age, which they would have had quite a large cannon in them, and the actual cannon itself is rotting on the side. But because all the mechanism is gone, these gun pits are like perfect cylindrical holes bored into the hillside, and it feels like you're going into a temple, and there's one at each corner.
Oh wow.
So it's just it's a really weird, great little place.
Yeah. Sounds
Okay.
amazing. It sounds like it's going to be like incredibly like cinematic as well. So where would you recommend our listeners can keep up to date with the project or follow along? Is it mainly Discord, would you say?
There's a few places. So to catch up on all the stories so far in the most convenient place, if you go to nightmare.market, and I'll explain a bit more about what that is in a moment.
Because I haven't mentioned the Nightmare Market.
That's fine. But nightmare.market, just wang that into your browser, and that will take you through all of the transmissions to date in one convenient location. The Discord is where the online show will happen on Saturday.
Yeah.
But there will also be an internet radio station, because we are using a radio system to do the sound design and the soundtrack in real time on the island, and that'll be going out as an internet radio station. So
Wow.
at the very least,
Wow.
you can like follow along with the like music and the weird sounds. Yeah, so that's all going to be very strange to rig. And there'll be film coming out afterwards. So there's a videographer coming, and there's both an amazing videographer and amazing photographer coming. We're very lucky they've given up their time, so we'll be able to share that as well.
But mainly for the live show element, starts at 6:30 GMT.
That's the digital one, yeah, in the Discord.
Yeah, in the Discord. Because the people on the island, that's when they start to board the boats, and that's when the live show starts in the Discord. And this might lead nicely into what you're going to talk about. So the Discord will open, the live show begins, and then as the sun sets, the door to the Nightmare Market that will be open in Discord for one night only will be open till midnight. Is this where you want to go in and talk about the Nightmare Market and why the story website is nightmare.market?
Yeah, so our vision for Stormjar is to keep making horror experiences. We've shot 2 films that we're working on in post at the moment that are short films. We've got some really fun conversations going on with some pretty wild places for follow-on experiences. And we have a new show that we're working on called Splicer, which is all about film as a medium. So it's an immersive experience for cinemas, where the audience is edited into the film. It's really weird. It's going to be quite frightening, and it has some really interesting kind of questions behind it. But all our stories connect together via the Nightmare Market. And this is a marketplace which you can only reach from a nightmare, where monsters trade their illicit wares. And every story, every show, every film connects to the Nightmare Market. And the Nightmare Market opens in Discord. So it's this really nice way that there's Easter eggs for long-standing fans, but there's loads of different ways that you can fall into our shows, and any show can be experienced standalone. It will never matter that you didn't know, but if you did know about the market, there'll be some fun things in there.
Because there's always going to link. So yeah, this show's called The Static Sea, but then it has a link with the Nightmare Market, as all of our productions will have. There will always be some sort of link.
A shared universe of
Exactly.
immersive horror experiences.
Yeah, it's very hard to get something off the ground, and especially with immersive stuff where it's like, well, what is it? What does that word mean? And it's also new intellectual property. So it's like, well, who are these people? What is the story about? I don't like it. It's not about Batman. And I totally get that. that anxiety where so much of what's being sold to us is a nostalgia trip. New things are frightening and the world is frightening at the moment, and so you get this kind of anxiety inducingness with newness upon newness upon newness. So we thought, let's build something consistent.
Yeah.
Plus it's just a really fun concept. Like,
it sounds so fun. It sounds so fun. I've been, ever since I first saw the headline, I've been super interested, and I think everything's great that you guys put online. Everything, the website's great. I'm not on the Discord, so I'm definitely going to go and check that out in time for Saturday. And of course, I recommend our listeners do the same. I will put all the links for everything we've discussed so far in the show notes. And of course, Jim and Sophie, good luck for Saturday. Enjoy yourselves, make history, and try not to get shit on by a seagull, I guess. Well,
yeah,
however easy that be.
so
Fairly
there's thousands of them.
Yeah.
Something I did want to ask you before we close this was, what is the best thing you've seen, read, or played in the horror medium recently? Like, what recommendation do you have? It doesn't have to be your favorite thing of all time, because I think that's a difficult question, but what's really like resonated recently?
So I've literally just finished reading James Herbert's The Fog. Now, I'd never read it before, and I'd never read anything by James Herbert, and I started with The Rats, and now I've moved on to The Fog. And what I like about the Fog is, and I like this about The Rats as well, that it's a very like working class English story. Like, a lot of the characters are working class in English, and I think for some reason that something about that really resonates with me and really drives the horror home. And we've already mentioned 2.8 hours later. And 28 Days Later is one of my favorite horror films, and I think it's because of that, the quintessentially Britishness of it, and that's kind of what draws me to the Static Sea as well, is that it feels like a story that can only be told based on like where it is in the world. So yeah, I would say James Herbert's The Fog, because it was always a title of a book that I'd like the sound of, and then I was like, what is this? John Carpenter's The Fog? Is this what this is based on? Absolutely not. It's a horrible malevolent yellow fog that seeps into, I mean, we've seen loads of it in cinema since obviously this book, people being driven crazy by something, but there's something like really nasty about the book. And yeah, I felt really involved from start to finish. Yeah, and in terms of games, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent now. I've been playing Elden Ring at the moment, and I'm not usually the kind of gamer who wants to go ahead and get punished over and over again by the most unbelievably difficult stuff. But there's so much horror in Elden Ring. Obviously fantasy horror, but there's so many like horrible, desolate, hopeless landscapes and creatures that are just like abominations. And so for me, that's one of the reasons, as a huge horror fan, that I've really been enjoying that as well. But yeah, discovering brand new things all the time. I saw stop motion recently as well, the movie. I don't know if you've seen that advertised at all.
How is it?
Oh my God, so good. A stop motion animator, and her creations start coming to life. I realize I've given you an example of each media you asked for then.
Yeah, what
that's
amazing.
Great.
There you go.
Because three things that I haven't, I do own Elden Ring, and I really suck.
Oh man,
hard.
Apocalyptic.
It's so hard.
I sucked for I still suck. I think I've definitely sworn at it today. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but yeah, I think that's the great question there. It's exactly the kind of question. If anyone asks me that in real life, I'm like, oh yeah, you're asking me that, are you? Well, sit yourself down. Let's go.
I'll definitely pick up The Fog. That sounds great. And yeah, stop motion sounds wicked as well. So thank you.
Yeah.
I've had my eye on stop motion, so I'm really keen.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys have seen Late Night with the Devil advertised as well. I know there's a little bit of discourse at the moment regarding a certain element of it. To be fair, it was something I noticed during the film, but I wasn't like, oh, it's completely taken me out of it. I was a bit like, ooh, but I didn't like. I think it's a great film, and it's kind of a shame that is kind of over it. We're gonna cover it on the show first week of April anyway. So yeah, good recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really keen to see it because it has potentially there's some learnings for us in terms of Splicer, right? Trying to make a horror show
Yeah,
out
most definitely.
in
It's
the
got
film.
100%. I recommend it. It's a unique sort of medium that's trying to be a nice fresh take on something. I don't know, of course, Ghost Wash exists,
Mm.
but you know that was 30 years ago. It's nice to see a slightly different take on something. Surprisingly, we've not had more. Yeah, but obviously you guys are more than welcome to join us for a mainline episode once you're finished with, well, I say finished, who knows how much post Static C stuff you're going to be busy with. But yeah,
Well,
definitely join us for
we'll be doing a preview screening of Splicer in sometime in the next few months. So it'd be lovely to have you guys along because you're
oh
local.
wow. Absolutely, yeah.
That'd be a fun thing to talk about.
That'd be great. 100% up for that. Just fire some details over to us. Yeah, so thanks so much for joining us, Jim and Sophie. It's been a pleasure. And thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. And of course, follow us on all of the social media platforms you get your hands on. And yeah, enjoy yourselves on the weekend. Good luck. And see you both very soon.
Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you.
Bye.